if you're a CSU Ram fan, which I know over the years can be challenging, we've had some great basketball teams, some okay football teams, some decent football teams. Now, the Sonny Lubick era was phenomenal, but overall, CSU, Colorado State University, has been the backbone of Fort Collins since the early 1900s. And it is a university that we support, probably as fair weather of fan base as you can get, because, hey, we live in Fort Collins. So fall weekends, rather than going to a football game, we go up and we go hike. But that being said, if you had the chance to go to a Hughes Stadium football game prior to the Canvas Stadium being built, you got to experience some Foothills football along in Fort Collins. And it was awesome. Some good tailgating. It was right along the Foothills, older stadium. But that being said, in 2021, City of Fort Collins voted to keep that land, to rezone it open land. And that was a process that was cute by the eyes of the state of Colorado, because the state is who owned it, the Colorado State University. And we have an affordable housing issue, and they wanted to build as much dense housing on there as possible for their employees, cafeteria, janitorial, younger professors, to provide affordable housing. And the city of Fort Collins wanted to keep that open space. Long story short, the state agreed to that. Just as the last couple of weeks, the city had produced $12.7 million by way of bonds and putting collateral on parking structure and property that they own to be able to buy the land from the state. And from there, now we have to determine, what does that mean? What does open land mean? And this year, at some point, they're going to come down to 2, I think, or 3 uses or options for what that is going to be. And money is going to be put into the budget to build that or somehow provide that, whatever that might be, in the 2025, 2026 budget. But there was a survey that just went out over the last few weeks, and what that looked like was 2,700 people responded to it, and 24% said, hey, we want to keep this, a bike park or a skate park, or different uses for open areas. 18%, they wanted a wildlife rescue and restoration, 16% open land, 16% said parks, 15% recreation, and 11% said natural areas. There are some hurdles and things to overcome that really need to be discussed in regards to what does reclamation mean, because there's underground tunnels still, there's rubble. To bring it back to natural lands could be quite an undertaking financially. So all of that has to be put into the budget, which will happen in the next 3 to 4 years, depending on what it is that we agree to. This is live in Fort Collins. We come to you every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. to talk to you about what's going on, what happened, what's going to be happening, recap with City Council, developments under review, and look at a neighborhood tour, a drone tour of that neighborhood. And this week we're looking at Thunderbird. So stay till the end if you're interested in a great midtown location. Other than that, things that have happened over the last week, we got hit with another 3 inches of snow on Monday, a wet snow, 0.3 inches of precipitation. This year, we are on track to hit our annual average snowfall of 51.4 inches. We are currently at 47.3 inches, with our heaviest month being March of 15 inches. Second place was January of 10.8, and third place was November of 9.2 inches. All that tells me is that we got smoked with snow multiple months, along the way, and not just got, pelted in March or April. We just continually got snowstorm. It felt like just every weekend. It was just continuous. That felt like this year, which was, I guess, nice for our 139% of snowpack up in the mountains. But down here in the foothills, we like to keep that snow up in the mountains where it really makes an impact. Big news on the Larimer County and connections. If you are in and around Fort Collins, you might have connections internet. That's what I am streaming this on right now. It is crystal clear as far as the strong gigabyte speed up and download speeds that I'm getting. Larimer County and Connections have agreed to a joint partnership so that they're going to begin to provide areas once they're done with the city of Fort Collins, which they have 7 areas left, and they're hoping to be done with it at the end of April, so this month, of their 357 areas that they provided service to. They're going to extend to Imperial Estates that has 203 homes, and then 837 homes on the northwest side of Harmony Road and South Taft Hill, including the Timber Ridge Mobile Home Park. So, and they're saying this is just the beginning. So Larimer County, not, Fort Collins proper, is going to see some of this phenomenal gigabyte speed internet coming to it sooner than later. So if you're in the county and not in the city, good news if you like your internet as much as I do. From there, we've got what's coming up this week. We finally have some 75 degrees coming up next week. I know one of our agents, Zach, went skiing, said that the ski was phenomenal. I believe he went to Winter Park, if I remember right. Said the skiing was phenomenal. So if you haven't been up, get up there if you can. But at least down here in Fort Collins, we're seeing 75, 80-degree days here in the next 10 days or so. So thank you. Saturday soccer is happening here shortly as well. If you're interested, there is going to be a CSU Master Gardening class at the Loveland Public Library, April 3rd, 10th, 7th, 24th, and May 1st. And this is going to be from 12 to 1 p.m. And this is going to all be in person at the Gertrude Scott Room at the Loveland Public Library. So planting is on its way. You never plant in Fort Collins until after Mother's Day. I've heard a few people feel like they're going to make a bet this year that it's going to snow after Mother's Day. We'll see. That being said, it was a pretty interesting city council meeting last night. There was 3 things that they talked about. One was oil and gas regulations, rental regulations, a ballot measure allowing felons to run for office. And then they also had a large crowd of U+2 individuals, which if you are not from Fort Collins, we have a ordinance in Fort Collins. It's a U+2. 1 person plus 2 unrelated can only live in a house. It's irked a lot of CSU students over the years. I think the origination was so that multiple families couldn't necessarily live together in one roof. But that is something that's getting addressed, one, through the Colorado Housing Bill, which if you didn't watch last week's live, I literally did a deep dive, the entire episode into that housing bill. But that is going to be addressed at the May 9th city council meeting of kind of what, if they're going to put it on the ballot or not. But it might not even matter, because if this Colorado Housing Bill passes, occupancy laws are going to be removed in the next 3 years anyways, when those come into effect. So we will be watching the housing bill closely, as well as that May 9th meeting. But the oil and gas regulations, which passed 6-1, essentially limited now moving forward the available land space in Fort Collins from 13% of available land within Fort Collins that could potentially be drilled on to less than 1%. And a lot of these had to do with a 2,000-foot setback from walls. And there's some, opponents of it saying, hey, these these restrictions weren't restrictive enough. The people who were for the oil and gas saying, hey, there's revenue sources that we're potentially missing out on. And are we kind of double dipping on the state regulations? So that did pass, ultimately decrease. The biggest thing that I took away from it was it's decreasing the available land from 13% potential usage to less than 1% now available to oil and gas drilling in Fort Collins. A big discussion yesterday that was contentious amongst the council members was the rental regulations. Essentially what they're looking at doing is asking for voluntarily that 40% of our housing inventory in stock, which is rental occupied, to register with the city. And then they will proactively inspect units every 5 years, starting in year 2. Now, the registration is like $37 to register a property and $10 per unit. They do not know what the inspection fees could be. And that's what the biggest argument was for against this is like, we don't have the money for this. It's going to be passed along to the renters. There was a lot of clarity that was desired from a few of the council members, but ultimately that did pass 4-3. And so we will start to see how this makes up. It's going to begin January of 2024 for these registration of rental units, and then subsequent inspections every year after that. Now, there's definitely some rules and things that are going to be in place, whether you already get your unit inspected by HUD or a third-party inspection. So lots of information yet to come out on that. But that being said, that passed 4-3. And then finally, the ballot measure for felons to be able to run for state was essentially kind of immediately unanimously passed 7-0, because we were in opposition of what the state requires. That the state says that yes, felons can run for office. And so we just essentially wanted to be in line with what the state is telling us to do. There are 3 conceptual reviews that came through. Nothing too exciting. An expansion of a car wash on Taft Hill, a request to approve an auto repair shop from a current use of a warehouse, and then finally a carriage house on the back of 611 LaPorte Avenue. So nothing too exciting on that side of things, but still carriage houses are definitely in desire. Continuously see those, especially in the more dense areas downtown. Let's jump into today's neighborhood, which is Thunderbird. And let's see if we got it here. There we go. Thunderbird, where these homes were built in the 1960s and 70s, Midtown, off basically on the southeast side of College and Drake. 11 homes sold since 2022, $510,000 to $670,000. These houses are going to be 1,700 square feet to 2,900 square feet on 0.2 to 0.33 acres. We helped a client secure a house that was on about a third of an acre over there. There are a lot of ranch style houses, but then also a lot of split levels. Fun fact, I actually stayed in this neighborhood. It was my sophomore year. I lived on Annabelle, and that was where we lived with, let's see here. We lived with 3 other individuals. Super stressful year. That's a story for another day, but really close to Foothills Fashion Mall that has some great opportunities coming up here. And then I think with McQuinney and the redevelopment of that, about a 5-minute drive to CSU, 7 to 8 minute drive downtown. So if you're looking here, a very reasonably priced neighborhood, decent sized homes, good sized lots, close to everything. Some might need some updating. We've helped clients buy, sell, and invest in this neighborhood. We're coming up here, as you see, College Avenue, looking west on this neighborhood, and really, really pretty close to a lot of amenities, restaurants. We walked across the street to Egg and I at the time, which is now First Watch, but otherwise good CrossFit gyms and the like here. That is our neighborhood tour. I'm going to jump into some of our questions and phenomenal comments, which somebody suggested they are digging the glasses. I'm not going to say who it was, because I'm just going to assume it's some third-party random person that just really appreciates my style. Tony R, is Pulse competitively priced? I'm not sure. Pulse, if you don't know what Pulse is the Loveland fiber optic internet that they are providing. And they too have I believe, a joint partnership with Larimer County. I don't have any direct pricing for Pulse. But if you are a connection client, they are increasing prices by $10 from $69 base to $79 base, and then I believe a $10 modem fee. So we were paying $79.99 a month, which will now be $89.99 per month. But I do not have pricing on Pulse. So if anybody has any information or is a client of Pulse connection, let's see here. Xfinity is $70 per month. Bull. No way. $70 per month, maybe for 1 megabyte of speed up and down. I'm just kidding. Actually, I know Xfinity was definitely making a push, both financially when this was going through when City of Fort Collins voted to have a municipal broadband connection, Xfinity was putting millions of dollars against it, and they were trying to lock us in for a long-term contract. We did not want that, but I would be willing to bet that, yes, Xfinity is probably relatively affordably priced comparatively to what it was. Because when I left Xfinity, I think it was 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago, we were paying $150 per month for 25 megabytes up and I think 15 megabytes down. It's crazy to see the side-by-side comparison of what Xfinity had versus what Connections had. Connections has a 33% take rate right now. And if you're watching this and in Fort Collins, I 100% suggest you get on the Connections bandwagon and support your city and support Connections. It's a great internet, and you can, I think, have speeds up to like 10 or 20 or 200 for different price points. But that being said, I'd be interested to see what Xfinity is. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has a pulse price point for us, but we are at about 16 minutes. I try to keep these between 12 to 15 minutes. Another level-based question. Is there anything new on the development on Centara South with Whole Foods? Watching this very, very closely. I do not have any update on that, but we too are watching kind of that Johnstown area. Connor, who is very in tune with that. Reach out to Connor because he's pretty in touch with that Johnstown area. And we suggested just the other day, one of the things they are absolutely lacking is grocery. And the closest grocery is really on the west side of I-25 if you're in that Johnstown area. So, Tony, Connor, maybe respond to Tony if you can. I see you're watching this, Connor, but respond to Tony about any updates on Centara South Whole Foods. All righty, guys. Appreciate everybody watching. Until next Wednesday at 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time live. This is Live in Fort Collins. Thanks for watching.